Hi everybody, hope you're well. This video was requested by Sydney Smith. In this video I'm going to be talking about skiller policies. So you might be thinking about ordering a skiller from a team. Now I'm not going to talk about any specific teams or any particular servers or any particular breeds. I am going to use some examples, but I don't want to, because there's so many different servers, there's so many different teams that run in very different ways. I'm just going to talk about this generally and my own personal experience. So there's a couple of things you want to bear in mind whenever you're thinking about getting a skiller. You want to be thinking, right, what kind of skiller do I want? What kind of competitions do I want it to win? Am I looking at a skiller that's going to be able to hold 60 lessons in my EC for me? Am I looking a skiller that can run my EC competitions or can run one particular EC competition or maybe two? Am I looking at a horse that can collect me lots of rosettes because I'm trying to get my rosette ranking up? Am I looking at a horse that can be a really good EC booster for the prestige of my overall EC to improve the bonuses? So you might be thinking about some of these things with your skiller, or maybe you just want to try your first skiller. It depends, right? But you want to be thinking about these things because it's good sort of practice for the future. So once you've got these kind of things down, what kind of skiller do you want? What do you want it to do? What do you need it to do? What doesn't maybe matter so much. So once you've got those kind of things, you can start to look around at different teams, maybe different breeds, and figure out whether any of these might suit. Now, if you're not sure, you can always go and ask people. Have a look at how the Grand Prix is going. Have a look at how some of the big competitions are going. Have a look and see what horses are doing well. And different horse breeds and different teams will do different, well in different areas, okay? So it's not necessarily that one team's going to be the perfect go-to horse every time. It's not, okay? So once you've got these kind of things, you then, and don't be afraid to ask around, ask people for their opinions and advice and so forth. Even maybe speak to some of the teams that are selling skillers just to get a rough idea, because some of them will be very knowledgeable. Now, not everybody will respond, but some of them will. So in terms of once you've got a good idea of what you want and you approach a team to buy a skiller, there is a few things that you want to be aware of. Whenever you go to approach a team to buy a skiller, they usually expect that you're buying a skiller that's unskilled. So what I mean by this is a skiller that has been bred from 100 parents with tears or a hair pack, right? But it hasn't got the BMIs added to it. It hasn't been skilled fully for you, okay? So these are I'm just going to use these as an example. So I've got some here that are basically, they're not skilled, but they're ready to be skilled, okay? Because they were bred from 100 parents with tears and hair pack, and their full games were done. And this is the other thing, is to make sure that the full games were done correctly by whoever did them. So because I have the VAP perk, I can geld these at 1 year and 6 months. Now, if you're buying from somebody that has to have them at 2 years and 6 months because they don't have that VAP perk, you need to make sure that it comes with a Water of Youth, and you need to make sure that they have done the lessons between 2 years and 6 months. Because you don't want to lose skills if you're paying for this. So some teams will give you a prepped skiller at the age of 1 year, 6 months. It won't be wearing any black market items at all, and it will be gelded. And most teams, they will never, ever, ever, ever give you an ungelded skiller. Some teams might do it by accident and then they'll frantically want to buy it back. But generally, you will never get an ungelded skiller at a top GP. Now, you might ask a team for a skiller that is ungelded at a lower GP that's at their public, GP level, but then you're not going to get the same skills. It's going to be lower and it will not be as good. So if you're going to go to the big leagues, get yourself a gelded one, because you got the gelding bonus. It's good for you and it's good for them. So the other thing is being aware of the time that you order it. Some teams have a certain time limit. So if, for example, you wanted a skiller that would win the Monday Grand Prix, some teams might say that you need to have ordered by the Tuesday past, or at least 24 hours in advance, or at least 48 hours in advance, or maybe you had to book weeks in advance. Some teams have such a huge amount of orders from people book weeks in advance. I have had to book months in advance for some skillers because of the demand. Now, it will depend on the server, because some servers are quite quiet, but some you have to book way in advance. So make sure you know what time they stop taking orders for, obviously, because you need to make sure that you don't order it an hour before the Grand Prix and then you don't get it skilled in time, that would not be good in any shape or form. So make sure you give them enough time and enough warning so that they can go and breed the horses, blup them, get them to 100, breed you the good skiller, get your skiller ready, and then you have enough time to buy it from them, and then you have enough time to skill. Because there's no point in you spending a heap of passes or expecting this team to breed you a skiller in 5 minutes and have it for you there. Because they'll just tell you to go away if you're too, I need this right now. Because teams, they have lives too. I'm sure you do. And you don't want to patronize them. So make sure you order in good time. Now, some people, if you're not looking one to win the Monday Grand Prix, maybe you just want one to skill. It's a bit more relaxed then, usually. With most teams, you don't usually, if it's just one that you want to skill, it doesn't have to win. It just has to be a nice general skiller that you maybe just want to put in competitions and enjoy. And that's, it's just something you like doing. Then it's usually not as bad. It's usually not as big a deal. And a lot of those can actually be bought in direct sales. And you don't have to worry so much. Now, I will talk a little bit about direct sales skillers just at the end of this video, but I'm going to stick with pre-booked ones for a while. So once you have contacted a team and you said when you want it, when you need it for, and what you need it for, and so forth, the other things you want to be thinking is, do you need them to board it for you? So do you not have access to a 60 EEC? Maybe they do. Maybe they can give you a box for a day. And generally they'll not give you for any longer than a day. So if you're buying it, say you're buying it on Sunday and you're going to skill it that day, and they put it in a 60 box on Sunday and it's a 1 day box, if you then leave it to skill on Monday, it will have come out of the box and you'll no longer have that 60 box. So it's very important that you make sure that you have the box, you get it when you're ready to skill, or you book a box yourself from somebody else that you can then put the horse in. So make sure you're getting the box. You either have that booked with them, that they're going to provide it. Some teams will not provide you a box. Some teams will flat out tell you have to go to somebody else and get one. So you might need to go to somebody else first and ask them about getting a box before you even get your skiller. So do you need anything added? Some teams will ask you whether you want horseshoe bonus studs put on the horse before you buy it. Now, they will charge an extra fee for that, but it's in case you don't have access to VIP to purchase them. So that might be something you might be thinking of, or maybe you need them to add a water review for you. Obviously, they're going to charge the extra for it. Now, you'll probably expect passes for it. It will depend on team to team. Some teams will nix it for you, as long as you're paying the extra 6 passes for the nix. Not all teams will do it now because sometimes people will say that they're buying a skiller and then not buy it, and then that team's stuck with that next skiller that they can't move. So generally, most skillers will come to you now with nothing on. Now, if you're a good customer and you're there regularly and they do expect that you're going to buy it up, they might be fine putting a BMI item on it for you in advance. But if you have the passes already to put the BMI on, you can probably just do it when it comes on your own account. Now, the other thing is, whenever you're buying, now it doesn't matter, I think, so much for very good teams that are well versed, but sometimes whenever teams you're maybe just not sure of, make sure that the full games were done right. Make sure that all those 60 full games were done right. And you should also be able to ask about the innate skills. Now, whenever I say this, if I had somebody approach me, just for example, some of these here skillers that I have in sales, if they asked me what the innate skills were, so the skills that they were born with, so the inborn skills, or the 60 skills from full games, that I can say the inborn skills was 400 skills, for example, and yes, it has got all 60 skills from full games. So obviously you want to make sure that that's done correctly. So because there are sometimes, and this is the thing to be careful of buying in direct sales, I'm just going to quickly mention this, is sometimes horses will be labelled skiller, their full games haven't been done, so you've lost 60 skills there, and they weren't bred by tiers. So you have to be careful when buying. Sometimes, because some people will try and pull the wool over your eyes. Not a lot of people purposely do it. Some people just don't even realise. They just think it's a skiller and they don't realise they're not actually selling the skiller. But just be careful of that. Now, the other thing is, if you're booking winners, some teams, and I'm just saying some, will allow you to book a horse that is capable of winning the Grand Prix, for example. So they will hold on to the very, very best horse that they have, and they will charge you extra for having that usually. So you usually have to book in advance for that, and you will have to pay more for it. Now, the amount can vary. I have seen teams charge 5, I have seen teams charge 20, I have seen teams charge 13, for 10, 8. The amount will vary from team to team, and you'll need to clear that up with them as how much exactly that's going to be. Whether it's too much and you can't afford it, then you'll just have to leave it, because generally they're not going to sell it to you if you can't afford to pay for it. Now, there's a couple of things not to do with teams, and this is kind of more for people maybe they're not used to the whole process. Don't be rude, because if you're rude to them or purposely refusing to buy it based on the inborn skills of it, like say for example you wanted at least 350 inborn skills on the foal that you got, on the skiller that you got, but they only got 340, okay? But the 340 was still capable of winning whatever event that you booked it for. If you refuse to buy that, I will guarantee you that they will never accept a skiller order from you ever again. That is generally the way most teams work. If you don't pick up the horse, you waste their time, you waste their passes, and they will basically blacklist you from buying horses again. So you have to be very careful of that. Now, obviously, if they're really, really rude to you without reason and you're rude back, well, maybe you don't want a skiller from them. Do you know, it can be one way or the other. But don't just be, don't patronise them generally. Now, a lot of the people who sell skillers won't guarantee. So now this is to say this, you might have booked a skiller. You might have booked a skiller that's won, and you might have paid 20 passes for it, okay? And then you've gone and spent all the money putting the BMI items on it, the bonuses, and you put it in the Grand Prix and it doesn't win. That team is not held accountable for the fact that it didn't win, okay? Because, and a lot of them will say this, they will say this in their terms and conditions with the sale of their skillers. And those are usually available on their team page or in maybe in some of the, like in the international where you have private forums, it might be in their forums, on particular players' page. It might be on their presentation. You might have to ask for it over PM if they don't have it available. Because the thing is, and I have seen this, I have produced horses that were good enough to win. But then somebody, and this is the thing that irritates me about Howrse, sometimes Howrse bring out new items, bonus items, things that not everybody has access to. And then you get a horse that's actually lower in skills than yours, and then they win because they had more these specific bonuses that you couldn't get. And I have seen that happen. There was actually some bonuses that some people got that they weren't supposed to. So until those bonuses go away, that can cause actually a real big problem. And the other thing is, if you were to skill this horse perfectly, have all the bonuses on, but you put it in the wrong EC with a per bonus, and somebody with a lower skilled horse has the 40 plus bonus and they've skilled theirs correctly and got all the other bonuses, there's a chance that they could beat you. And therefore that will be your fault essentially. The team will take no dealings with that because you put it in that EC or whatever. So that's your fault, or you didn't pay attention. So they won't want to get involved. So they will not guarantee that it will win. So basically a lot of them will say that they won't guarantee it will win. And also I have seen people buy skillers and skill them wrong, and then they come back to the team and complain that you sold me a faulty horse, when in fact they've skilled it completely wrong. They've skilled it when the health was low and lost skills. The horse's morale and health was low, and then the horse goes into the Grand Prix and of course loses because they've put it in a bad state, so the horse isn't going to perform. So these are the sort of things that you want to be thinking about. And the other thing is, if you don't respond, so if you order a skiller and then maybe you go out for the day and you don't respond, some teams will have in place certain criteria. So if you don't respond within 14 hours perhaps of say for example I booked a skiller and I wanted it on Friday at 6 p.m. and they PM me just before Friday on 6 p.m. and they say your horse is in sales for you, and I don't respond maybe Sunday morning, they might go, right, she's not responded, it's past the 14-hour period from 6 o'clock on Friday, we're going to put it in direct sales or we're going to sell it to somebody else. And they're within their rights to do that because you essentially have wasted their time. That's the way they will look at it. You have wasted their time again. So you want to be careful. Now, obviously, some things can genuinely happen. I have known people to fall ill and not pick up skillers. I have known people to have other things go on, unexpected things. It happens to us. But some teams, if you don't pick it up, they won't care what the excuse was. They just won't have it. Some teams will be like, okay, that's understandable. You know, if you want to book one in future, blah, 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 they might be fine with that. But some teams will just basically have you blacklisted. So in terms of talking about all those reserved things, as I was mentioning, sometimes you book a skiller, you're on a reserved list. So sometimes what teams will have, if you maybe wanted a skiller on the 8th of August, but somebody already booked it, sometimes you can request that if that person doesn't buy it, that you can have it instead. Sometimes that will happen. Not all teams do it, some of them do. But you could make them aware of it. If there is someday that somebody doesn't pick up their skiller, I'm happy to do it instead. So they'll see you as somebody there. If somebody else didn't bother picking up their skiller, then you can have it instead. So that can happen too. So those are some of the general things about skillers. Now, in talking about direct sale skillers, as I was mentioning just quite, generally earlier, some people will put horses in sales that they call a skiller, which aren't skillers. They're not proper skillers, in that they haven't had their full games done, or they've had them partially done, or maybe it's been aged without a water of youth and not lessoned properly, and so forth. So be very careful whenever you buy in direct sales, or possibly inquire, ask, have the full games been done, how many skills they've got from the full games, because if they immediately say 200, you can kind of go like, you can't get 200 skills from full games. That's a red flag to think maybe this person doesn't know. So just be careful, obviously, whenever you go to buy in direct sales. I would advise obviously going with people who obviously have a good reputation and so forth, because generally you get what you pay for. This is the thing too, is like, I usually will have people will book skillers with me, and those will be more expensive because I have to spend longer, more time and more effort in getting a better skiller for them and hiring and more skills and so forth. And then I will put some of the lower ones in sales, so they will still have had their full games done, and they still will have everything else done, but their innate skills, so the skills they were born with, will be a bit lower. So people generally will charge less for those. So if you're not looking, maybe you want to practice, I say that probably the direct sales skiller is the best place to go and practice with, because you don't want to go and pay 20 passes for your first skiller that you've ever done and then mess it up and then feel really sad, because you would generally feel really upset if you messed it up. It's better to buy a cheaper one, make mistakes. You've seen me skill. How many times have I missed lessons, okay? So it's kind of about practice. So it's a good thing sometimes to go and get some of those lower ones just to practice with. So that is kind of some of the general rules around skiller policies, what they'll come with, where you'll receive it and so forth. And usually if you're obviously ordering a skiller from a team, it will be reserved to you. It won't be in direct sales. So thank you to Cindy Smith for requesting the video, and hope you have a lovely day.